The next time I hear somebody say, "Oh, the holidays look so different this year," I'm like, be quiet. I know this. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. It's Rob and Liz, his morning crew on his radio. So because of COVID-19, you already know there's a lot of anxiety. The holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas are going to look so different. So we've asked Stephanie Baker from Life and Abundance Counseling Ministry to join us. We're going to talk about this. But first, I have to ask, because Stephanie eats plant-based, for health reasons. So she was talking about a tofu turkey. But the thing that gets me is the tofu. Did you say you made a tofu chocolate cake?
It was a chocolate pie. Like chocolate silk pie is what they call it, but it's really made with silken tofu. And I'm telling you, I promise you, we're on Christian radio. I wouldn't lie to you. I promise you it's delicious. It's very good. It tastes like Dream Whip, like with chocolate in it. It's very good.
I have like a gag reflex.
I know.
But when I'm like, ew.
And
I'm going to take your word for it.
That's good.
Yeah, I kind of want make us one.
Okay.
I'd love to try it.
It is pretty good.
Lizz's Ugly Bakery after the new year. How about that?
I'm going to send you the recipe, Liz.
Awesome.
It is really good.
Oh, good. So Stephanie Baker, Life and Abundance Counseling Ministry. Let's just start getting into this. Okay. Liz is going to get us started, but here we are with the holidays, and it's so different now.
I know Thanksgiving is next Thursday. So you're thinking about the different people that may be coming to your Thanksgiving, or maybe you're traveling. What are some of those things that we need to be thinking about?
Well, if you're the one that's traveling, you probably want to consider risks that are involved in traveling. And also, if you have at-risk family members that are with you. So we never know from one day to the next, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. You could end up with symptoms, have your plans all ready to go and then end up with symptoms right before, heaven forbid. But what we want to think about are state guidelines, city guidelines, county guidelines. If you're traveling out of state, make sure that you do your own research so that you're not caught off guard. Realize that there may be some places that aren't open if you're traveling long distances, for example, and you need to stop and go to the restroom. That can also be a problem, but put in front of you the needs of your family, your immediate family. And if you have at-risk family, immediate family members that are going to be traveling with you, how safe is it for them? If you're going to go see somebody who's at risk, how safe is it for them? And ask yourself, and I say this with clients every year, is this an obligation? Are you going somewhere because you feel like it's an obligation, or are you going because it's something that brings value and adds value to your life? Not every family scenario, you'll be shocked to hear, is functional. There's a lot of dysfunction out there. And so sometimes we go places and do things because we feel coerced into doing them. And that's not really a good way to do it. So that would be something that I would consider about that.
So my in-laws were going to come from Michigan, and they called us a month ago and said, we're just not going to do it. It just seems too risky for us. And I get it, because high risk and everything else. They're older. They're in their 70s and 80s. But then you start thinking about the emotions of it all, because maybe you're going to have to take the stand of, I love you, I'm sorry, but we've got to be safe and can't come.
Yeah. And, to that point, I think it's really important, again, to weigh your responsibilities against, or weigh your concerns against your responsibilities. And if somebody is telling you that they can't join you, or the reverse, they would prefer that you not join them for whatever reason, then understand that our role is to respect where other people are with their boundaries. If you're the one setting the boundary, it may be that there's some hurt feelings when you do it. But again, something I talk with clients about, you are not responsible for how somebody else responds to a boundary that you set. You are responsible for what you say, how you say it, when you say it, and if you say it. But you can't control how somebody else is going to receive it. And so the important thing is to do what you feel is in the best interest for your safety and for the safety of the people that you're going to be around. So you might want to consider communicating, pretty early on if you're concerned about that, or you're going to need to set a boundary. Communicate clearly, acknowledge other people's, maybe their disappointment, and, say something to them like, this disappoints me too. We're going to miss being able to be with you, but also maybe be flexible in how you guys might still be able to connect. Your goal in setting these boundaries isn't to change somebody else's mind. it's really just to communicate your decision and your choice.
Yeah. And some of those choices that we make sometimes can lead to disappointment. But I think that 2020 has also taught us to kind of roll with the punches.
Yes.
But we need to kind of plan that things may change tomorrow, or they may change on Thanksgiving Day, that somebody says, I can't be there.
That's right. I mean, like we said earlier, all it takes is a positive COVID test or symptoms to show up, running a fever, and what you thought you had laid out as far as what everybody's going to do is now all of a sudden completely different. But the good news is, even though there are things that maybe you can't do, there are just other things that you can do. So you have to identify what those things might be. What we're really looking at is we're looking for and seeking for connection with everybody. That's the important thing. So if it can't be in person, then maybe try to use technology. If you don't have technology available to you, then maybe try to use the phone and put somebody on speaker while you're, mashing potatoes or baking the turkey, and try to get creative in that way. And again, one other thing I want to mention too is to stay on point. If you're having conversations about something that's not going to happen and everybody's been excited about it, don't get sucked into the debate about science or politics. Just accept everybody kind of where they are right now, and maybe let's just press pause on the hot button topics for another time.
Stephanie Baker with us from Life in Abundance Counseling Ministry. One last thought. It always has to look perfect when you're in person. But now, since we're virtual for some Thanksgivings and Christmases that are coming up here, what about that striving for perfection?
Do you guys remember, I'm going to date myself here, do y'all remember the movie Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase?
Oh, yeah.
So remember, he just wanted it to be the perfect Christmas, right? And I think we all can have the tendency to romanticize what we think the holiday should look like. We've got a picture in our heads, and then there's the reality, right? And so again, what we're seeking is connection, not perfection, and being able to understand that things may not go the way that you want them to go. We got to be careful too, not to distort the situation and make it appear or feel worse than what it really is. And I think there's some questions that we could possibly ask ourselves, where does this stuff fit into the grand scheme of things? How can we maybe use this as an opportunity to reflect and grow? How might we reframe what's going on if it's not going the way that we wanted it to go? And how can we practice gratitude in the midst of that? Because one thing that I want to try to encourage everybody to do is if you have your plan and something's not working out, a really good question to ask is, okay, Lord, what would you have me see in the midst of this right now? What is it that you want to see today? Right?
Stephanie Baker, Life in Abundance Ministry. We will have all of these thoughts on our blog at hisradio.com. In our podcast, too, the Rob and Lizz On Demand podcast. And you'll see it coming up here just after 9 o'clock on the video replay, which you can find on Apple TV, Roku, and the My HISRadio app.